Today I'm trying out Ina Garten's famous meatloaf. That is a pretty meatloaf. So tender, so moist, so flavorful. My mouth just started watering. She knows what she's doing. Ina Garten's meatloaf is pretty famous. I've never had it, but sounds delicious. Sounds very similar to other meatloaf recipes. Nothing crazy, but her preparation is what's key. I think the most shocking thing about the recipe is that it starts out with 3 cups of onions, or 3 onions. This is really the only thing that I saw that I'm like, ooh, I bet that is good. That's a lot of onion, but she cooks it down a lot and brings out that kind of sweetness. So I can see how this will be delicious. But I mean, I can kind of see it also because it's like smash burger vibes. That's damn good. Okay, 3 cups of onions. That looks about right. Let's see. I love it when this happens. 3 cups. Ina Garten does seem to live the life. Only the finest of things. That's why I wore my pearls. Okay, and the only other thing you have to chop up is a little bit of fresh thyme. Super, like, just simple, lovely, flavorful ingredients. When she says fresh thyme, I think you need to use fresh thyme. This is not a thyme to break out the dried version, okay? Fresh thyme's where it's at. So I'm going to go the extra mile here. We just need a teaspoon chopped. Okay, now we cook. You know the drill, people. I'm breaking out the olive oil. And it says right here, good olive oil. But between you and me, I don't care what kind of olive oil you use. Tablespoon of oil. I don't want the oil to get too hot before I add in the onions or they'll just start to brown immediately. We want all those sugars to kind of come out naturally. Going with my thyme, 2 teaspoons of salt, and then 1 teaspoon of pepper. So we're gonna just cook this kind of on medium low. Now this process is gonna take about 8 to 10 minutes, so go get a glass of wine. Just doing my thing. Okay, so you can see that the onions are really soft and translucent. And then at this point, she says to take it off the heat. We're gonna stir in chicken stock, Worcestershire, and tomato paste. She does say you can use canned chicken stock. Shocker. 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire, which is probably more than I put in my meatloaf. And a tablespoon of tomato paste. Adding these afterwards is gonna bring down the temperature, and that's what we want to happen because we need this to cool slightly before we add it to the meat. You don't just wanna put this in steaming hot or you're gonna start to cook that meat. Let's finish her up, shall we? All right, so large bowl. This recipe uses 2.5 pounds of ground chuck. So we know ground chuck is where it's at when it comes to burgers and everything else because it's just got more fat, also known as more flavor, and more moisture. So this meatloaf should be really moist and not dried out. Then we're gonna add in our onion mixture. All right, and then eggs, 2 extra large eggs. That's a special purchase. She's particular probably because you don't wanna overmix the meat. Okay. When I make my meatloaf or meatballs, I like to mix all the stuff and then add the meat in, but we're doing it all at the same time. 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs. Aren't y'all proud of me for following a recipe? I feel like maybe I'll take my pearls off this. She says this is your best tool, and I agree. So you don't want to overmix it, just want to be sure everything gets well incorporated. Also like this recipe because it's like, you know, how the restaurants do it, not old school. We're not using an actual loaf pan, we're shaping it so it looks a little more rustic. All right, I think that is well blended. Let me wash my hands. I feel like the need to talk fancy. Very sophisticated. Like this is the very demure version of the meatloaf. Proud of me? She's on trend. All right, then I'm just gonna dump it out and kind of free form it. So much easier than having to like form it in a loaf pan. Okay, all right, then for that iconic topping, just ketchup. I usually mix my ketchup with a little balsamic vinegar or something before I top it, but I'm doing it just like she does. She also used her hands to spread this in the video I saw, so this is just the time of year for meatloaf. It's kind of just the comforting meal when the weather starts to get cool. This goes into the oven, but she doesn't just put it in the oven by itself. She puts in a pan of hot water so it kind of steams around the meatloaf as it's cooking. This in the oven. Oh, I chose the wrong pan. Let me find another thing. This'll work. This could be the thing that makes all the difference, so don't skip the step, people. It's gonna hopefully prevent it from cracking all over the outside and the top, like a cheesecake. That's it. We're gonna wait about an hour. Supposedly we're about to have the best meatloaf ever. Okay, it's been exactly 1 hour. It smells so dang good in here. Okay, let's see where we are temp-wise. Looking for 160. She is so like exact. I mean, I'm really close. I know I could pull it. It's safe to eat right now, but I'm just gonna do exactly what she says. I have 3 degrees to go, so I'm just gonna give it like 3 or 4 more minutes. And I'm going to go get my veggies. You cannot have meatloaf without mashed potatoes. I don't think I've ever had meatloaf without mashed potatoes. Okay. Perfect. Now we can't just serve it from that pan. We follow directions. We're gonna transfer the whole thing to a serving platter. That is a pretty meatloaf. I just made Ina Garten's famous meatloaf. But now it's time to taste it. It cut like butter, okay? Definitely, I can tell it's gonna be tender. My mouth just started watering. This doesn't count as my official bite. This is just the first taste. She knows what she's doing. Perfectly seasoned. You definitely taste the like Worcestershire coming out, and with the caramelized onions. I called it earlier. I was like, it kind of reminds me of that burger kind of effect. I just got a little sweetness from those onions. Mixed with the ketchup. The ketchup is not overwhelming. It's just like the perfect complement. Go, Ina. To serve it, I will like slice it up a little bit, maybe sprinkle on a little bit of parsley, make it fancy. You know, thanks to that steam bath. I mean, there's like a tiny bit of cracking, but not like the normal meatloaf that you make. So that did do something. Okay, for the official plating. I'll sprinkle, we'll fancy it up a little bit. Is it time to do it the right way with the perfect bite? So tender. Go in with a little mashed potato. She knows what she's talking about. If you've never made Ina Garten's meatloaf, you should give it a try. So tender, so moist, so flavorful. 10 out of 10 would make it again. Whatever I said, she was right.